Coming up on Lawmakers, the federal budget announced by President Bush held some surprises for Georgia. We'll have reactions from state leaders. The House passes the FY 2005 adjustments to the state budget. And officials from Hartsfield-Jackson come to the Capitol to talk about airport expansion and the city's ability to manage without the state's help. Those stories and more are next.
Live from Atlanta, this is Lawmakers for Tuesday, February 8th. Here are your anchors, Nwandi Lawson and Gerald Bryant.
Good evening, everyone. Also on tonight's program, the governor's education flexibility legislation passes Senate committee.
And a bill that would ban smoking in public places statewide clears its first legislative hurdle. But our top story tonight, reaction to the federal budget. President Bush's proposed $257 trillion budget includes several cuts that would affect Georgians from Marietta to Brunswick. David Zelski joins us live with a look at a few of the proposed changes. David.
Well, thanks, Gerald. The Lockheed plant in Marietta, agriculture, and the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta would be hit the hardest if the president's budget passes as proposed. But many at the Capitol say changes are still a great possibility. Beginning with the Lockheed plant in Marietta.
I think Lockheed's in jeopardy at the present moment.
These cuts would end the production of the C-130 cargo plane next year and the F-22 Raptor plane by 2008.
If both programs are cut, we're talking roughly close to 4,000 employees will lose their jobs.
It would be devastating for Metro Atlanta, really for the state of Georgia. These cuts are draconian in nature, unnecessary, and I would hope that the Congress would provide some sanity and protect these good jobs that are in Georgia right now.
And then there's Georgia's farmers.
We have the most nutritious, most plentiful food of any nation and the least expensive, and I'm looking forward to having our say, and please don't cut the budget as it relates to agriculture.
The president's proposal reduces the caps on payments from $360,000 per farmer down to $250,000. and cutting overall support for crops by $5.7 billion over the next decade.
I would hope that the Congress of the United States would look closely at this budget proposal. There have been a number of senators that have been targeting Georgia for cuts.
But there is hope for both Lockheed and Georgia farmers. U.S. Senator Saxby Chambliss chairs the Senate Agriculture Committee and stated that the cuts to Lockheed were one of the worst business decisions he'd ever seen.
I have a lot of faith in our congressional delegation, and so I don't think people should panic. I think it's just part of the process.
The Center for Disease Control would also take a hit. The Atlanta-based facility will fight to restore $800 million in cuts.
I would just feel like that if the senators and representatives would look closely at the budget proposal from President Bush, they would see that the cuts proposed for Georgia, they're short-sighted.
Now, there were a couple of bright spots for Georgia. The Army Corps of Engineers did receive funds for massive construction projects at Lake Lanier's Buford Dam, and there was money given to Deep in Savannah's Harbor. Reporting live, I'm David Zelski for Lawmakers.
David, I understand that Brunswick didn't fare as well as Savannah in this proposal.
Yeah, unfortunately, Brunswick received no funds on their work for their harbor, a project that has already begun.
All right, David, thank you very much.
The 2005 supplemental budget cleared the House today. Earlier, I spoke with House Appropriations Chair Ben Harbin about the budget, including $7.5 million being restored to local systems in the form of student achievement grants.
The student achievement grants are a great first step to getting money back into the local schools at their discretion as long as it's used for education. And I think it's something we can be proud of in this budget. And I think the vote that we got today of 165 votes for it speaks to the fact that people believe we are truly trying to fund education the way it should be funded, and we're doing it within the restraints of our budget. But the student achievement grant, I think, will go a long way in these local communities so that they can put the money where it needs to be in education.
Of course, another area that folks have had their eyes on is that public health arena, particularly looking at how we're going to fund Medicaid. How does the House version of the budget tend to address that?
Well, overall in the House budget, we did not make a lot of changes because we felt like the money was spent properly, being put in the right places. We are looking at some of the restorations as we move in those six, because as the economy continues to improve, we want to make sure that the health care of this state is funded the way it should be, and I think you'll see some changes there. But this budget, I think, does properly and adequately take care of the needs of Georgia's health care.
Of course, those are the two big areas that we usually look at, education and healthcare here in the state. As you see it, though, what are some of the other areas that you would feel particularly proud about in this budget?
Well, I'm really proud of the higher education, the bond programs we put in there. I know there's been some criticism, but when we were able to free up some money throughout this budget process, and we put that money into projects around that were priorities for the Board of Regents. And I think this allows a lot of our students who we are trying to encourage to stay in Georgia to go to college. This allows the facilities to be in place to do that. And those were all over the state. I mean, from here at Georgia State, where we were able to make a small investment and draw down $25 million of private money to help us build a facility there that will work with the CDC. The Fort Valley State, the historic black college and university, is a designation from the federal government. And we're able to help them with the building down there. So we're trying to help all over the state. And I think that that's something that we can all be proud of, because not only are we trying to put money into K-12 education, but we're also trying to put it into higher education so that those students we're educating can stay in Georgia and go to school here.
I know you mentioned also that there was a certain degree of pride at the actual process and the fact that it is particularly going through at a record pace. What do you attribute that to?
I have a great appropriations committee. The Speaker, Glenn Richardson, has been wonderful at letting us work and get into this budget and ask a lot of questions. And the vice chairs that I have, who are chairs of their subcommittees, have done a great job of getting the information. And we've put a budget together in, some have said, record time. But I think when they see the budget, it was a very good budget, a budget that balanced as it had to by Constitution, but it also put the funding on what we felt were House priorities. So the process has probably been the thing that we've been most proud of.
From the House floor this afternoon, Minority Leader DuBose said that Republicans have little to be proud of when it comes to education funding because the quality basic education funding for public schools has been consistently underfunded.
When you cut the formula in QBE as we have the last 2 years, and those cuts that roll over into 06, we're talking about recommended cuts of almost $1 billion to the QBE formula. We talk about shrinking state government, but what you do is you put it on the property taxes of the local people in your schools, in the property taxes paying for schools in your local area. That's the effect of that. You wouldn't support $270 million. But we brag about putting $7 million back.
And the amended budget did pass by a vote of 165 to 5. That supplemental budget was immediately transmitted to the Senate. In other news, Senate Democrats have proposed a faith-based funding amendment which they say will prevent government funds from being used for school vouchers. Democrats accuse Governor Sonny Perdue of attempting to change the state constitution in order to provide funding for parochial schools.
We believe in faith-based services also. I think all of us back in our home communities obviously have dealt with faith-based organizations that do service the underserved in our communities. But we need to make sure and clear that one issue that faith-based doesn't do is, in a sense, provide an opening for private school vouchers.
The public and we as Democrats support partnering with faith-based groups in our communities that provide needed services as they do now and as they have for years. But we're not for siphoning that money off to something else.
Meanwhile, Democrats in the House plan to introduce a companion bill. Senate Resolution 42 has received support from the League of Women Voters, the Professional Association of Georgia Educators, the Georgia Association of Educators, and the Georgia PTAs.
If government is allowed to arbitrarily allocate funds to private organizations, the accountability of doing what's best for all children is removed from the public purview. We applaud the efforts of legislators to do the right things for all children, but when it comes to public education, the majority of our students are educated in public education, and so therefore we would support any opportunity to make sure that all public funding goes directly to the students who are currently in our public school systems.
The Governor's Faith and Family Services Initiative, Senate Resolution 49, is expected on the Senate floor later this week.
Today at the Capitol, Atlanta Mayor Shirley Franklin joined officials from Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport to inform legislators about the multi-billion-dollar expansion projects underway at the airport. Lawmakers Chris Knight joins us live with more on that story. Chris.
Gerald, these projects will not only expand the world's busiest airport, but they will also bring thousands of new jobs to the state. Airport officials were also quick to add that the Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport is a self-sustaining enterprise, meaning the airport does not rely on state taxpayers to help fund these projects.
There are many things about the airport, kind of behind-the-scenes things that we'd like to share with our legislators.
Officials from Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport landed at the Capitol today for the second annual Aviation Day at the Capitol. Atlanta Mayor Shirley Franklin hosted the event.
Did you know, and our lawmakers will love this one, that not one penny of city or state tax revenue support our airport?
Those attending learned about new multi-billion-dollar expansion projects underway at the world's busiest airport.
By May 27th, 06, we'll have a brand new fifth runway. It's a 9,000-foot runway. The second major feature is a new international terminal. As you know, we're a world-class city, and we have an international terminal that will be our window on the world. And that terminal will be completed in probably during 2008.
As well as the airport's economic impact on the state.
But the airport's economic impact is responsible for over 600,000 jobs in the state of Georgia. And when you look at the overall revenue and economic impact, it's almost $19 billion a year.
Airport officials said the expansion projects are on schedule for their completion. Also today, legislation relating to the airline industry was introduced by Representative Mark Burkhalter. The legislation would put a $15 million cap on the amount airlines pay in state fuel tax. Reporting live, I'm Chris Knight for Lawmakers.
Thank you very much, Chris. Well, the airport has an impact on the economy. Tourism also has an impact on the state's economy. Today, the Senate Economic Development and Tourism Committee passed two bills they say would boost the state's tourism industry. Senate Bill 125 is Governor Sonny Perdue's tourism initiative. The legislation would create the Georgia Tourism Foundation, a public-private foundation that would consolidate the state's tourism marketing efforts.
Last year, we spent about $1.1 million on advertising Georgia. We spent a little bit more than that, probably around $5 million on marketing, but if you're talking about straight advertising, it's about $1.1 million. Our goal is over the next 3 years with the foundation is to leverage that one-to-one with private dollars so that we can get to a budget of around $2.3 million. That still won't get us to where we want to be, but it gets us a lot further and allows us also to use dollars. Perhaps one of our venues has a special event this year. We can use more dollars there, and next year we can move those dollars to another area. It gives us a lot more flexibility than we have right now.
Senate Bill 125 received a due pass by the committee and now heads to the Senate Rules Committee. Legislation that will legalize the selling of sparklers also passed out of the committee. Senator Jeff Mullis, chairman of the Senate Economic Development and Tourism Committee, explained Senate Bill 133.
We think that the revenue aspect to taxing, believe it or not, sparklers would be a economic incredible event, and we're proud to have it passed today. Again, we're just trying to legalize sparklers. No firecrackers or Roman candles or bottle rockets. It's just sparklers at this time.
Senate Bill 133 also received a due pass recommendation and now goes to the Senate Rules Committee.
Also today, one of Governor Perdue's bills promoting small business growth was introduced in the House. House Bill 282 would provide tax savings for small businesses that are making capital investments and creating jobs. Qualifying businesses around the state of Georgia could see more than $25 million in tax relief over a 3-year period. The third part of Governor Sonny Perdue's education agenda was given a favorable due pass by the Senate Education Committee today. This legislation would delay class size reductions mandated during the Roy Barnes administration. Lawmakers Jesse Freeman is standing by with more. Jesse.
But Nwandi, the lower class sizes that were supposed to take effect in grades 4 through 12 have been delayed each of the last 2 years. Senate Bill 35 would extend that delay through the 2006-2007 school year. The central issue of debate around SB 35 is the delay of class size reductions. Groups representing teachers discouraged the delays.
I have to say, as an advocate for best practices and to ensure that every child has an opportunity to learn, that we're saddened about our recommendation to delay class size for 2 more years.
We've reduced class sizes in K through 3. We'd like to see a step up to grades 4 and 5 this year. If that's not possible, we wouldn't want a delay of any more than 1 year.
But school administration groups say they want to make the most of the situation.
When local school systems build their budgets, they build it on the resources they have, not the resources they would like to have. We support the passage of the substitute to Senate Bill 35.
Dr. Ben Harbin from the governor's office says class sizes aren't the ultimate answer.
When you cut class sizes, you need to hire more teachers. And if we're hiring the best teachers we can find at first, we're going to be getting a lower quality teacher later. And so it's possible that by cutting class sizes, we could harm average student achievement.
And Chairman Dan Moody says it boils down to making a tough decision.
We would love to lower our student-teacher ratio in every class. Georgia simply doesn't have the money today to do that.
And Chairman Moody also says that if class size were reduced, it could cost property owners over $100 million in new taxes. He added that while the first two parts of the governor's education agenda passed the full Senate without much argument, there will probably be plenty of debate on SB 35. Reporting live, I'm Jesse Freeman for Lawmakers.
Thanks so much, Jesse.
Meanwhile, the state Senate today passed a resolution applauding the Board of Regents' creation of a four-year college in Gwinnett County. Senator Don Balfour is one of the sponsors of that resolution.
The population of Gwinnett County is now over 700,000, projected to go over 1 million in the next 20 years. The enrollment in the public school system in Gwinnett County today is 135,000 students. And if you look at the enrollment of most of your universities that you have right now, probably one of the largest amount of students from any county is Gwinnett County. Gwinnett County, I think, is #1 in University of Georgia and Georgia Tech and probably Valdosta and all the other universities. And I think that would probably stay that way. And it's just another place for students to go to, and the regents have approved this, and I'm very glad that we can, on this day, bring up Senate Resolution 33 and pass it out, hopefully unanimously, and I'll yield for questions if there are any.
Now, Senator Preston Smith offered a facetious amendment to the resolution, one that furthers his aim of naming an official state amphibian.
The institution shall be named and referred to as Don Balfour University Center, or DBUC, as a permanent honor to the chairman of the powerful Senate Rules Committee, and shall have as its official school mascot the fighting tree green tree frog.
Well, Senator Smith withdrew his amendment, so there will not be, at least for now, any fighting green tree frog mascot. The resolution passed by a vote of 50-3.
In the House today, they moved to close loopholes which allow companies to avoid paying corporate taxes to the state. Currently, businesses are taxed based on 3 factors: sales, the number of in-state employees, and the worth of a company's Georgia-based assets. House Bill 191 would allow the state to tax based on sales alone. Representative Larry O'Neill said this would provide incentives for companies that do business in Georgia to incorporate in this state instead of establishing themselves in states like Delaware or Nevada that don't charge corporate taxes.
Going to the single factor would encourage that corporation that's now a Delaware corporation to want to be a home office corporation in Georgia because of the single factor. The loophole is entirely different. It's if I'm a Georgia corporation and I create a Delaware or a Nevada, there are 4 states where there's no tax at all on corporate income. What I do is I create an intangible charge of some sort. It's typically very disingenuous. It's a royalty of some sort, and it usually just happens to be the amount of Georgia taxable income. Hence, that's deductible on the income tax return. The feds don't care about it because it's includable as a closely held corporation, a parent-sub kind of situation. So the federal taxes are washed. It's the same. The net result is Georgia just gets nothing, yet our markets get used by these companies that have set up these disingenuous, in my opinion, schemes to defraud us, again, with clever tax lawyers, which I used to be one myself. I promise you it goes on.
House Bill 191 is expected to save Georgia companies almost $1 billion over the next 10 years and to add $250 million in state revenue during the same period. The measure passed with 2 dissenting votes. It now moves to the Senate.
A bill that would ban smoking in public facilities statewide received a due pass from the Senate Health and Human Services Committee today. Proponents of Senate Bill 90 claim it would save Georgia taxpayers millions in unnecessary medical costs and childhood deaths due to secondhand smoke. Others claim that a statewide ban on smoking would inhibit individuals' rights and pose unnecessary use of government regulation. Those for and against the legislation voiced their opinions at today's meeting. Senator Don Thomas sponsors the bill.
The taxpayers of Georgia spend $419 million a year on smoke-related diseases. So it'll save millions in Medicaid funds, along with saving people's health. And we find that smokers are not even against going outside to smoke. So the momentum's in this direction. 6 countries have banned smoking in the whole country.
The adverse effects of passive environmental tobacco smoke have been well documented in children and infants. These adverse effects include increased frequency of lower respiratory tract illnesses, asthma, ear infection, hospitalizations, and even sudden infant death syndrome.
In my office, we own the building. I pay taxes on the building. And to me, it seems like, just as a citizen, if I own the building and I'm in the building, the state law should not go in and say, Rusty, you cannot allow anybody to come in your office and smoke a cigar to celebrate the birth of their son. I don't think that's right. I just don't think that's right.
Senate Bill 90 now awaits action in the Senate Rules Committee. In other news, Governor Sonny Perdue addressed the Home Builders Association of Georgia at a luncheon today. He asked the association for their support of Senate Bill 124 and House Bill 184 that would make some technical changes to the current law governing the licensing of builders and contractors.
I know that you are and will watch these bills carefully, and I don't expect any problems, but I feel much more comfortable with you in the industry working side by side with me to help correct what I thought was a technical flaw in there so we can get on with the work in hand.
Senate Bill 124 passed out of committee today and heads to Senate Rules, while House Bill 184 is still in the Governmental Affairs Committee.
Pro-life advocates rallied at the Capitol this morning in support of Senate Bill 77 and House Bill 197, the Women's Right to Know Act. Sponsored by Georgia Right to Life, the annual event drew over 200 citizen lobbyists. Lawmakers Michael Riddle has the story.
While House Bill 197 is still in committee, both bills are expected to enter their respective rules committees later this week.
This is the 15th year. So 14 sessions have been going on, and the bill did pass the Senate in 2003, but hasn't had a hearing in the House. So this is the year that we have a pro-life majority in the House and the Senate, and we hope to get this bill to Governor Perdue to sign.
The act merges several changes to current abortion laws into one bill, strengthening rules concerning parental notification and informed consent requirements, while also holding abortions to the same medical standards as other surgical procedures.
Out of all the medical procedures that are allowed in Georgia, the doctor must talk to the patient about all the possibilities, except for one, and that's abortion. Well, the Woman Right to Know bill requires the doctor to go over the procedure with a woman and tell her all the aspects of it. And then
incorporated in 1971, Georgia Right to Life is a state affiliate of the National Right to Life Committee and promote the respect for human life through education and legislation. Reporting for Lawmakers, I'm Michael Riddle.
Concerned citizens of Georgia came to the Capitol today for Child Abuse and Fatality Prevention Day. Lawmaker Sean Yancey has that story.
Members of Prevent Child Abuse Georgia and the Office of Child Fatality Review came to the Capitol today to relay their message to state legislators. They want to make child abuse prevention a priority in Georgia.
In our ideal world, we would train parents so that they would have all the skill sets that they need to be good parents, and children would grow up in nurturing, loving families. And we would eliminate all those kids that have to go into that DFAC system.
Local business leaders from the Atlanta area also showed their support.
One of the community projects that our Leadership Atlanta Class of 2005 is engaged in is working with Prevent Child Abuse Georgia, and we're here today at the Capitol to do our part on advocating for children who really don't have a voice. We are here to support them in preventing child abuse before it even gets started.
Ava Patillo from the Office of Child Fatality Review addressed the audience and urged them to speak to their legislators.
So many other things have higher priorities than children do because children really don't vote. But you are the ones who do vote that can stand for children and make a difference with legislators. And we are counting on you today to do that for children.
Reporting for Lawmakers, I'm Sean Yancey.
Today was also the 4th annual Lobby Day for the Georgia Breast Cancer Coalition Fund. Angela Vondrasek has that story.
Breast cancer survivors shared breakfast with legislators as they discussed current legislation and the future of breast cancer prevention. Senator Eric Johnson talked about the impact of breast cancer.
Cancer is personal.
It's killing one American every minute. It's the second leading cause of death in Georgia. We all know somebody affected by it. Women are 1 in 3 chance in being diagnosed with cancer. Men are 1 in 2. It's costing more than $2.9 billion annually in Georgia.
The coalition also addressed House Bill 83, which is currently in the House Insurance Committee. They say the bill will negatively impact employee benefits and health insurance.
I urge you to take a look at House Bill 83. It's a serious matter, and I think we need to fight as women to ensure that these preventive provisions that we have worked so hard to pass are not simply repealed with the stroke of the pen. I've introduced a bill that would require that we take a look at each of these mandates to determine which are truly preventive and which truly help patients, particularly women patients, get treatment early enough so that they have a chance for a healthy recovery.
The group hopes to raise funds for screening and treatment programs for the sale of the Georgia Breast Cancer Awareness License Plate. Reporting for Lawmakers, I'm Angela Vondrasek.
Former State Senator Joey Brush, a one-time country music singer, used to be the official birthday singer in the Senate. He's gone from the Senate, but his legend lives on.
Today's a happy day. It is Coach Matthew Hill, our Sergeant-at-Arms' 72nd birthday.
Will the senator from the 24th lead us in a chorus of happy birthday?
He does not look like he will, Senator. Thank you.
I think the Senate of the 14th has the previous Senate of the 24th confused with the existing Senate of the 24th. Our country and Western Star has gone on to other pursuits. Senate of the 24th is recognized. He may have a surprise for me.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do not want to back off in any way, so would you please stand and join me in singing Happy Birthday?
Courageous, Senator. Here we are.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Coach. Happy birthday to you. Thank you.
Well, we join the Senate in wishing Coach Hill a happy birthday. We'd also like to send birthday greetings out to Bo Wilson of Marietta. He's the father of our talented producer, Ashley. Bo is 56 today.
Well, coming up tomorrow on Lawmakers, a rally against tort reform. The Lieutenant Governor announces a new initiative, and Chief Justice Norman Fletcher of the Georgia Supreme Court delivers the State of the Judiciary to a special joint session tomorrow at 11 a.m. We'll have those stories and all the latest from Under the Gold Dome. That's tomorrow at 7 p.m. And if you missed any part of this broadcast, tune in when Lawmakers is broadcast tomorrow morning at 5:30 a.m. on GPB. Just a reminder for those of you with access to the Internet, you can watch Lawmakers online. It's streamed live and then archived on our website every night that we're on the air. Now stay tuned as host Alan Alda takes a look at the history of Deep Sub-Alvin on Scientific American Frontiers. That program's coming up next.
And that is our broadcast for this 14th day of the Georgia General Assembly. Thanks for joining us. I'm Gerald Bryant.
And I'm Nwandi Lawson. For everyone here at Lawmakers, good night.
Good night.